podcast for heroes in the world of Overwatch. This is The Payload.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 40. That's right, 40 of The Payload. We are an Overwatch podcast from blizzpro.com. From Denver, Colorado, I am John Horstman. With me, of course, is the crew. First, though, from some weird, obscure place in California, it's Rosh. Hey, Rosh.
Hey, every time someone asks, hey, where are you from? I'm just going to start with some weird, obscure place in California now because every week that's exactly where it's from. Doing pretty well. Good to be here. Yesterday had a 24-hour stream, so a bit exhausted, but I am glad to be on a different stream today, still talking about Overwatch. So yeah, I'm excited to be here.
This is going to be our first 24-hour podcast, by the way, so I hope that you are ready for this.
I was born for this.
Oh, man.
So, I know Kevin can talk a lot, but that's asking quite a bit from him.
You guys can go do other
Believe it or not,
fine.
no, it's not. It's actually not asking that much of him. He can go all day. He's the Energizer bunny of speech. And
after
keeps
24 hours, I would be surprised if you would still stand by that statement. But I might be wrong. Maybe Kevin really has it in him. Maybe.
Let's go there. Well, actually, no. Sit tight, Kev. Sit tight. We're going over to Camarillo, California. Intros are going to be the first 2 hours. I've elongated the news bumpers by 10, so it all sounds like it's being introed by Lucifer. So that'll be great as well. But from Camarillo, California, it is Jimmy Bloxham. Hey, Jimmy.
Hey, always good to be back on The Payload. I mean, I've been playing a lot of Overwatch, so I'm super excited to be talking about all the stuff we have on the show today.
Lots of stuff, including out-of-date show notes. So we're just removing those. And last, but certainly not least, from Saskatoon, it's Kevin Hovdestad. Hey, Kev.
Hey, John. Yeah, I mean, Jimmy's right. There's a lot to talk about this week. It's probably not 24 hours worth of material, so we'll spare you guys that for this week and this week only. But it is a lot. There's been a ton of stuff going on, especially in Overwatch esports, and I'm really excited to get into it.
Me too. Well, let's get into it, but before we do, how about we chat about our weeks in Overwatch and see how everyone's been doing. Jimmy, let's start with you this week. Tell us about your week in Overwatch, what you've been up to.
Overall, it's been good. I had one day where I started out at around 1860 and just had a terrible run of losses and got down to like 1620 and then was able to climb back up to where I started by the end of that day. So, I mean, it was frustrating, but it felt good to get back to where I was and not really lose too much progress. And also I had a really awesome, I might talk about this last week, but it was such an awesome game. I'm going to talk about it again. Awesome game on Temple of Anubis in competitive. And I didn't realize you could go 3 whole rounds based on the new system now. So we went to the third round and we got the first 2 points and then we held them on that first point to win 6-4 on Temple of Anubis. And it was a really awesome feeling. Everyone, even all chat, was like, "Oh, it was a really good game," and everything. It was a lot of fun. So Overwatch has been good. Last night I just played some quick match to kind of step away from competitive for a bit, and I'm so thankful that competitive is 1 hero limit. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
Nice. Sorry, my mic. I was trying to get these notes in there. It is a struggle bus. So, Kevin, I'm going to rely on you to tell us lengthily about your week in Overwatch.
Lengthily. All right. Challenge accepted, sir.
Oh, dear.
No, there's some good and some bad, right? The good news is I was able to finish my Xbox placements, and I landed at a quasi respectable 2653, which felt pretty good. I know that the general curve on console is a little bit higher, but it felt good to start at that sort of rank. That's like mid platinum, I think, which is enough for a starting point. Unfortunately, my TV died as I was finishing my last placement match. So I now have to replace my TV. Yeah, the panel went right as I was like wrapping up that 10th game. I went 7-3, which was pretty okay. That's good. But it was definitely frustrating. And then unfortunately, that was like just after the show last week, end of last week. This week I haven't had a ton of time to play because we were moving my grandma into a care home. So that was kind of what I've been up to the last few days. But I'll be back into it again here, hopefully this weekend on PC. And I'm kind of out of commission indefinitely on console until I can go buy a new television.
Oh no, his
John, we can't hear you.
I'm just kidding. I wasn't even talking. I just, sometimes you just go for it, Well, Kev, sorry to hear about your TV.
It's all good.
But at least you get to see Grandma this week, so that'd be nice. Nice.
Yeah, it was good.
Speaking of Grandma, Rosh, how'd you do this week with Anna? With Anna!
Yeah, sure.
Come on!
Sure.
Give me some credit.
I was ready. Okay.
Wow.
I have personally never played a full game of Anna, so that's that. I don't like her playstyle. That's just me. I have played a lot of Overwatch. I am towards the end. I think this is day 8. I've lost track of days at this point of streaming for 10 consecutive days. And yesterday I did a 24-hour stream like we were talking about earlier. So I have played a lot of Overwatch. I did learn one interesting thing. You could play for Overwatch for 24 hours and only make 15 levels, which is exactly what happened to me, which made me realize that the leveling in Overwatch takes a lot longer than I thought it would. I started at 174 at the beginning of the stream yesterday, and then I went back to see where I landed because by the end of it, I was ready to get off. I didn't even check. I ended at 189. So I didn't realize how long it took to level. And I guess it starts getting that long after you hit level 10, where you have to actually put in some time to get level 25 before you can hit ranked. So I kind of want to say kudos to Blizzard because level 25 to get into ranked seems such a short time, like you could get there super easily, but you actually have to put in some practice and put in some work to get there. So I never really realized that. But other than that, I played DPS, if that's anything. I've never played DPS in the entire time Overwatch has been out, but I played Soldier and I played McCree, and I hate to say it, but I played Bastion the last few weeks, or over the last week. So it was. Is it
because you don't get play of the game anymore?
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. They said it in the patch notes, but I have still seen so many Mercy plays of the game. So I still got to
number one. NA Mercy says she still sees play of the game. I would hope so.
Okay, maybe you're
once or twice.
Yeah, maybe that's why. I don't know. We'll see.
When I'm being really good,
My Overwatch week has been really good.
Good. As for me, I had a pretty good Overwatch week as well. My brother and I hit competitive pretty hard. We weren't happy with our placement matches, and we're finding out a lot of the people I'm looking at are placing higher now because it seems like most people are out of placement matches. So you're seeing some people placing higher on console. And so we've been playing, though, and winning quite a bit. We're at the top of 2,400, so we're about to go into Platinum, which would be great. I would love to get into Platinum. I'd love to sneak up to Master by the end of the season for console, but we'll have to see if we're able to do that. But overall, pretty productive week, and hopefully get to play a bit more throughout this next week and not roll an alt in WoW.
Oh.
Do we know offhand when this season ends? Have they actually announced a date yet? I don't think they have.
I don't think they have. Just 2.5 months.
Right, so it'll probably be
6th.
roughly end of the year, give or take.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Cool.
Hopefully they cut it during BlizzCon week, so that way we don't have to worry. Yeah, we don't have to worry about.
I feel like the 2.5 months hits like right in the middle of November, so it'll still be going during BlizzCon, as far as I know.
Well, that's right. It's September 1st is when they ended up launching it. So after BlizzCon, then we'll have a week of no Overwatch. Great, Blizz. Thanks. We'll have to see what they announce, though. Let's go into some news.
That'll probably be the time that Ana thing is done, though. The timer for the Ana or Sombra. Sorry, it's been a long 2 days, but it'll probably be maybe by the end of that, the Sombra timer will have counted down. So maybe
getting that salt in, I love it.
This week in Overwatch.
We've got a ton going on in Overwatch this week, but before we do, we want to thank our MVPs, Adam B. and Tyler H. Thank you so much for supporting the show. If you like the show, want to support the show, you can head on over to patreon.com/Payload Podcast. We are ranking up on the Patreon so fast that we have to keep drawing up new goals. So thank you for that. We're glad that you're really enjoying this show. And of course, if you have any questions, email us, thepayload@blizzpro.com. Thank you again to our MVPs, Adam B. and Tyler H. Okay, so we've got some sad news here. I'm really sad about this one. I was on Convert to Raid this week, and I actually started tearing up when I was talking about it. But what's his official title, Kev? Lead story.
He was the creative director. I think
creative
was his
director
title.
Anyways, the guy who writes, he's the story guy for Blizzard, for Diablo, for Warcraft, for StarCraft, and for Overwatch. He's the story guy, and he is retiring, leaving Blizzard, but retiring, so that's cool, at the age of 42. So this is kind of a big deal. It's Chris Metzen is definitely one of the most beloved personalities at Blizzard, and a lot of people attribute Blizzard's success to Chris and his passion for story and his passion for the culture of gamers, and so he will definitely be missed. Is there anything that you guys want to say about Chris leaving? Not all at once.
I think you covered a lot of it.
There's a lot to say, frankly. I mean, this is the guy whose art in game manuals when I was a kid, and I'm talking like 9, 10, 11 years old, was the focal point of my childhood. I played a ton of like Warcraft and Warcraft 2 back in the early 90s because I loved the way he drooled troll axe throwers. Like it was weird to think that this is somebody that's had that much influence on so many people's lives, and he's I don't think he's going to be distant. I think he's probably retiring but not leaving, if that makes sense. We know he's already committed to coming back to do some voiceover work and stuff like that, but it's a very strange thing to see him depart from this company, and him among a whole slew of others in the last little while, as well as just in general over the last couple of years. This is a company that's going through some very major shifts, and he was one of the few people who seemed very stable. I mean, the guy was 42. He wasn't like, I would not have predicted him retiring at this point. So it's it's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely sorry, Jimmy, I cut you off like I always do.
No, it's really interesting. I'm sure we all have stories about Chris Metzen. I mean, mine mirror a lot of what Kevin said. The StarCraft manual, I remember vividly a lot of that artwork and just pouring over that through playing StarCraft. And probably just really quickly, the most vivid memory I have of Chris Metzen was when JR and I went to the Blizzard campus to do a press event for Mists of Pandaria. We got the opportunity to interview him, and just he is so passionate about these games and everything, and just being able to sit down and talk with him about Mists of Pandaria was super cool, because they had talked about who the last boss was going to be for that expansion, Garrosh, and like it was just, this guy is definitely going to be missed. But I'm sure his family is absolutely loving that he is stepping back to spend more time with them. And holy hell, like who would not want to retire at 42? That's incredible. That's a feat in and of itself.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing. For those of you who are newer to Blizzard games, if you want to check out what Chris Metzen has kind of done with Overwatch, I highly recommend to watch the BlizzCon 2014, the BlizzCon 2014 reveal of Overwatch. Super amazing, emotional moment. And I also recommend the 3-part GameSpot series. Yeah, where he talks a little bit more about Overwatch from a story standpoint. And the story that has stuck out to me is, I remember at BlizzCon, there was a kid who, young dude, had to be like, 7, 8, 9 years old, asked a Q&A, and he said, why was Winston so upset when Reaper broke his glasses? And I remember watching Chris get like choked up, and like the gravity of the stories that they've been telling, and being completely honest and transparent, like the stories are the reason why, or a big reason why, Blizzard is so universal, with age, with gender. There are fathers and sons and mothers and daughters playing together, not because, that happens with Call of Duty sometimes, sure, but I hear about it with Blizzard games more than ever. We know, Kevin and I, with both of the podcasts, we get emails all the time from families who play these games together, and it almost always revolves around the incredible stories that there are to go through and be told. And so, Chris, thank you. Good luck. And hopefully this isn't the last we see of you, even if it's not from the story, writing the story standpoint. Yeah?
Yeah. No, I agree.
All right. Well, I made it through without crying, so that's good. Let's move on to the next one. So we do have a small patch that has been released. Do we not, Kev?
We do. It's not a massive one this week. They just put out a small thing a couple of days ago with 2 general updates. One, reducing the frequency with which people should see Mercy Resurrections as play of the game. I know Rosh commented on that a few times over the course of the last month or so, and it's nice to see them making that change. So the weighting of how significant a res is has been changed. The second one is increasing the payload speed on Eichenwald, which was probably a necessary thing given how easy it is to take those last couple of choke points as it's pushing over the bridge and just hold there indefinitely. So good to see that. The rest of it is just interface updates and bug fixes. Nothing massive. Anything you guys want to add?
Sorry, Raj.
I told you, like I said earlier, I've still seen my share of Mercy plays of the game, but people still seem to complain about it. But I think that's just because they saw so much of it at this point. Even if it is them rarely seeing a Mercy play of the game, they're just so over it that they don't want to see any of it. As source of the patch notes, the only thing that I'd have to say is about the icon changes with the payload. I think that was a good step. That was the step in the right direction with them. It definitely seems to be defense heavy or favored for that map in particular. I don't think the problem is the payload itself, though. Moving it to that point is fine, but kind of like Kevin said, you guys stop there because that choke is so hard to get through. You have to get through the door on the left, the right, or the little choke point up top because the door closes. So while it was a step in the right direction, I don't think the payload speed was necessarily really what was preventing attackers from winning. But it shows that Blizzard is listening to the people playing the game and listening to their criticism on the maps. And they're trying to do little things that won't heavily favor it in the attacker's way. So kudos to Blizzard. They're trying to figure it out. That's good news on our part.
Totally is. Jimmy, any thoughts on this one? They added a new rank, didn't they? So we've got like some sort of new rank now. How does this work? This one flew by me a little bit.
I didn't catch that there. What is this?
Yeah,
competitive tier legend. No.
Yeah. It's literally a legend.
No. It's a legend. Come on, chat.
How the tiers work.
Chat is trolling.
Because without this, you were kind of thrown into competitive, and you get this icon. You're like, wait, what is this? I don't know. I mean, for those of us who are familiar with Blizzard ladders as they currently are, it makes sense to us. We're like, okay, we get it. We're in gold, we're in platinum, whatever. But for newer players, especially a lot of newer players being brought on because of Overwatch.
Yeah, I was making sure we were paying attention to what he was talking about. That's what he was trying to do.
I was so confused.
I'm like, there was a new competitor.
Jimmy was like, what? What happened?
And I was talking to the crew before the show about just how like crazy of a day I've had, and it's like how spaced out I am, and I'm like, there's another rank. And I'm like, I remember reading something about that. And then as soon as I went back and saw in the show notes how it was worded, I'm like, oh yeah, I had to double back. So there's a competitive tier legend, so you can tell between silver and platinum. Am I playing someone bad or am I playing someone pretty good? That's how you know. So there that is. Thanks a lot. I'm bringing out the banhammers the next time I stop talking. It's going to be brutal. Absolutely brutal. What else do we got here, Kev? Help guide me a bit.
Sure. So there is a conversation ongoing right now on the competitive Overwatch subreddit about how streaks work, win streaks and lose streaks. So there's always been kind of a known quantity in matchmaking rating systems about how the confidence interval system that Blizzard uses in particular will tend to start to slough off a little bit if you win or lose a bunch of games in a row, because the game then presumes that you are not in the bracket where you belong. So if you were to, for example, come back to the game after having been away from it for a month and lose a whole bunch of games in a row, the MMR system will try to more aggressively reduce your MMR so that you're playing against people of your own rank where you belong. And there's a lot of conversation about what that means and how even if something happens and it's just luck based and you happen to luck into, say, a 5 win streak, for example, that has a disproportionate effect on the outcome of your MMR. I honestly think it's kind of a necessary evil. Watching this conversation, I think a lot of people are trying to turn it into something about, well, what if you get lucky? What if you have a lever? Like, and all these outside variables. But at the end of the day, those variables apply to every player equally, and the system has to be built in such a way that if I, as a player, suddenly get good, right, and decide that I'm going to just sit and try hard and crush a whole bunch of games, and I win 10 games in a row, by the time I've won 10 games in a row, I should be earning more points for that 10th win on 10 consecutive wins than an average game is worth. I think that's intentional. I think that makes sense, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think.
Why?
Why?
Why is streaking points worth more? I get it at the beginning of the season because if you were drastically undervalued, it brings that up. That's like saying if you get a 4th consecutive touchdown in football, it's worth 10 points.
Yeah, but I mean, Hearthstone does it. Hearthstone, if you win, what is it?
Only up to rank 5.
Yeah, but still, I mean, that's pretty I mean, if you're a grandmaster in Overwatch, you don't need a win streak to help you. So I think the win streak applying to grandmasters is pretty moot. But I mean, look at it I'm both on Kevin's side, but I'm also on your side, John, too, because I agree.
I'm all for more XP, but I want to know the actual why would that actually physically be worth more?
Physically, there's no reason that it should be worth more other than a mentality point of view. Like, oh, you won 3 games, so we're going to reward you as a game by getting more, so you're more incentivized to win and try hard and play 3 games really effectively and not have real life stuff come up and leave. So you're actually putting your best foot forward. So that kind of pushes you to put your best foot forward with the games and not troll, because the rewards are pretty good. I mean, I went on a win streak and I was getting like 50, 55 points a game. That's when I stream, I'm like, oh, I've won 2 games. Like, let me really, really, really try this 3rd game so that I could start a win streak, and let's climb in rank today. Like, let's do that. So, I mean, personally, it's motivated me to go further and put my better foot forward. But at the same time, I don't like the fact that there's a lose streak. Because, again, if you look at it in Hearthstone, if you play Hearthstone, you know that sometimes it's just the RNG. You match up against a class that goes against you. That can still happen in Overwatch. Equally, like Kevin was saying, everybody has the same chances. It still can't happen. It feels kind of bitter to go on a losing streak, though, and then realize, okay, cool, I've lost 4 or 5 games. Now I don't even want to play, because if I lose the next game, I'm going to lose like 50 points, and that's something that I don't want to happen. So, I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle on the whole win-lose streak thing.
I guess, like, I'll add one thing, because I base a lot of my experience for this off of the original Blizzard MMR system that they used in StarCraft. And for me, right, I'm not good enough at Overwatch to speak to it in Overwatch, but in StarCraft, there was a huge difference for me between when I finally understood a core game mechanic and when I didn't. So the day that I finally figured out how to manage proper macro, right, and really develop my own base, that's the difference instantaneously between being a gold player and a diamond player. And if I didn't get the benefit of, I mean, I won 30 games in a row, right? But if I didn't get the benefit of the system saying, okay, he's vastly outperforming expectations for his current league, for his current skill rating, then I would have to have won hundreds of games and slowly, incrementally crept my way up to where my actual skill was. If anything, it's actually unfair for the people you play against. Because if your skill rating doesn't adjust quickly enough to reflect when you understand a new mechanic, or when you come back from a long break and you've lost your mechanics, if your skill rating doesn't move quickly enough, it's going to punish the people that you're playing with or against more than it punishes you as an individual player. And that, especially in a team game, is why it's so important that the system have the ability to move you more aggressively. So if you suddenly one day get it, right, you understand how to position and how to, accurately drop bombs on people as Junkrat from around corners and stuff, and you can make big plays and carry your team, and you win 10 or 15 games in a row, you're going to feel really good winning 10 or 15 games in a row. But that sucks for the people you play against. And the system is trying to move you away from these people that you're just winning against over and over. The game's whole premise is move you to a level where you win 50%. If you're winning more than 50%, you're going to move faster until you start losing. That's how the whole system is designed and how it has to work for it to feel good for everybody.
Right. But I mean, I think what we're talking about, though, is aggressive balancing. Just because you win, I mean, Kevin, you and I know Hearthstone's a 60-65% win rate game. When you streak, it's not trying to balance you up necessarily. It's trying to incentivize you to win more often in a row. And that's because you're not centered around 50% in a game like Hearthstone, necessarily. They kind of try, but it's not a perfect bell curve system like we deal with in Overwatch. What all the streak does, so I see it do a couple things. Number one, it does disincentivize smurfing, because if you fall all the way down, sure, that's great, but as you go and wreck noobs, you go back up a lot faster and you skip a lot of what you would normally do as a smurf to just crush up on people that you are playing against. But in the end, I think the biggest thing is to make very clear the streak is not so much a reward as much as it is a balancing tactic to say that where you are and the level that you're playing at, there's a disparity, and the game wants to correct it as quickly and reasonably as possible.
Right. In Overwatch, the rank system is a zero-sum thing, as opposed to in Hearthstone, where every time you go on a win streak, you're introducing extra win stars into the star economy. It's a different system altogether. But in Overwatch, basically, a win streak is actually a punishment. It's the game's way of saying you are doing too well, and the better you do, the harder we're going to make it for you until you hit a brick wall. So it's actually an inverse thing, right? You benefit from a loss streak and you get punished by a win streak. That's the whole intent, is to try to calibrate so that you're not going too far in either direction away from where your actual rank should be.
It's fun. Like it's fun while you're streaking up, but then it's I think a lot of people and these threads that we're seeing on Reddit is all of a sudden there's a perception that I should win more. If I was winning and streaking and having an awesome time, and now all of a sudden I balanced out, and and that's like frustrating to them. So ideally, the placement match system does a well enough job to where streaking doesn't really become a thing. Of course, you're going to have good nights. You're going to have bad nights. That's part of playing a game. But the idea is to have good, challenging games that stick you around a 50% win rate. And as you progress slowly, 2,200, 2,300, 2,400 over the course of weeks versus 2,200 to 2,900 in a couple days. That's just a not very good placement system, not a very good player necessarily winning up against a lot of that.
Fair.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Kev, I just needed you to push me down a peg, but I guess not tonight. That feels really neat. I feel I have this warmness.
You're not wrong. We're getting
Great.
you there. It's okay. We'll educate
I'm
you
not
over time.
my pet peeve. So, all right, sidebar.
Oh, here we go.
Sidebar podcast crew, sidebar chat. There's one thing that drives me nuts. It's when Kevin tells me I'm not wrong. He'll never say you're right. He'll say you're not
I
wrong.
totally say you're
and
right,
it's
just not very often.
adorable, but it's gonna get him punched. I'm gonna go up to him, put my hand out at BlizzCon, and when he sticks his hand out, fist is going right in the gut. That's what's happening. That's what's gonna happen. We'll have it on tape. It'll be for all of our Patreon people. You'll be able to see the video of me punching Kev right in the gut. What do we have next here? I think we've got BlizzCon goodies. So, Jimmy, what do we have going on with these BlizzCon goodies that we just had announced?
Yeah, Blizzard finally went ahead and announced what exactly the digital goodies for the various Blizzard games are going to be for those of you who get a virtual ticket or attend in person. The biggest one, obviously, for this podcast is Overwatch. There's a BlizzCon 2016 Bastion skin, which kind of accents his colors a bit blue and has that Blizzard X that's been around for the BlizzCon, for the 10th BlizzCon. And that's it for Overwatch stuff. There's some World of Warcraft pets, Diablo 3 pets, a Hearthstone card back, mount for Heroes of the Storm. And I think the most interesting thing from all this is a mystery goodie for StarCraft 2 to be revealed later. So who knows?
All right, cool. What do you guys think of these goodies? Better than last year? Worse?
Has to be a Bastion skin.
Bastion skin.
Had to be a Bastion. Like, I feel like I feel like Blizzard is just trolling us at this point. Like, they all know how we feel about Bastion, and so they had to give a Bastion skin? Really? Like, they know. But yeah.
I just for you, Rosh, I think I might have tweeted this to you. I might have not. We had I think it might have been your first show where we were joking around Bastion mains. I added to my Twitter biography that I'm a Bastion main. Oh my gosh,
did you?
Just for you.
Yeah. I didn't even realize. You must not have tweeted that at me. Oh wow, I'm glad I didn't see.
I subtweeted
if that was my
you.
first podcast, I'm glad that I didn't see, because that might have made me reconsider.
Yeah.
Oh geez.
Fair enough. So I love BlizzCon goodies. I love free stuff. I love Bastion. I do. I'm really good with Bastion. So that's great. Kev. Oh man, he doesn't like that sense of humor of mine. Let's talk esports. We gotta talk esports here. I don't have a thing for that, so whatever. Let's go right into it. So we've got the Overwatch World Cup Europe knockout stage coming up. So the Overwatch Cup stuff is going on. This is going to be on September 14th. So we have the 12 remaining regions. Actually, that was yesterday. Yesterday this happened, and I have no idea on the scores. Oh, this show, guys.
I got you. We had Finland moving on the bracket, as well as France and Russia, and it looks like the other games are still going on currently. So if you haven't had a chance to catch this, there's still a couple days of this. As there's matches on the 17th and 18th, Germany versus Iceland and Sweden versus Italy, and there are pretty good times for American audiences. So 9:30 in the morning for that one, the 17th, and 1 o'clock Pacific in the afternoon for the 18th match.
Jimmy, you're the man here, bringing the knowledge when I fail to. Thank you for digging me out of that hole. I'm just going to start dishing stuff and making you guys talk about it so I don't have to talk
there you
anymore. Have you guys seen anything around, gotten to check any of this, seen any feedback on how the World Cup stuff has been going so far?
The only thing I was gonna say is I don't think that the regionals are getting a lot of play. I don't think a lot of people are interested because all the big countries got auto qualified. Right? You're not going to see the Canadian team or the American team play because they're automatically appearing at BlizzCon, and I think that has sort of, at least here, right, for us in North America, that's kind of muted the interest a little bit because if you tune in and watch the American qualifiers, for example, there's only the 6 teams competing and there's no one really of note because the Mexican team doesn't have any like big celebrities, or at least not that as far as we're concerned, right? Maybe it's different for people who are tuning in from Latin America and it's probably great for them, but that's, for us, it's kind of like, like we'll catch up when they get to BlizzCon. The EU stuff was pretty much all blowouts, which is the one thing that's sort of, I think, disappointing. I don't know if that's a virtue of what the teams look like or how the last couple spots on some of them were drafted, but all 3 of the matches were total blowouts, right? Finland won 3-0, France won 3-0, Russia won 3-0. So it's kind of like they haven't been super competitive either, but hopefully by the time we get to BlizzCon opening week, which was announced and is coming up at the end of October, we'll get to see some higher level play and it'll be a little bit closer. The matches will be a little bit tighter.
Nice. Totally agree. There's been a lot of 3-0ing going on here. And as much as I like that, I love 3-0ing. They should get a streak for that, according to Kevin. They should be getting. They should get like
qualified
4.
To go to BlizzCon.
They should get a fourth win. Just carries on, streak right through the tournament. That's what Jimmy does at the casting desk for Heroes of the Storm. Always streaking.
Hashtag stay tight.
Ooh.
There we go. There it is. There it is.
Hashtag boxers or briefs. All right. So we also got Blizzard bringing in some caster talent to consult on upcoming changes to observer mode. We've talked quite a bit about observer mode in the past. I just thought it was cool to note that some people are getting some trips to Blizzard to chat more about it, and looks like they're getting to that stage where they're probably, I would assume, they're probably presenting some ideas, getting feedback on it, and also taking new feedback that maybe they hadn't thought about and seeing what they can do to implement it. Just as a reminder, Jeff Kaplan did say we will probably not see those changes by the end of the year. So we're probably still a good few months off before we see these changes.
And it's worth noting that this is purely speculative, right? Like, no one has actually confirmed that this is happening. We've heard rumors, unsubstantiated rumors. Nothing official from Blizzard has come out that says that this is actually happening. It's just kind of a known quantity that some people who work on Blizzard tournaments, some of the casters, have either made trips to the campus or live in such a way as they are available to do so, but there's nothing official on this at this point. We're just looking at speculative community news. This was reported by Esports Heaven, and they're saying that, we think this is what's happened. Somebody grabbed literally a screen cap of some Twitch chat to corroborate this. But it's very believable given like what John said, the context of Jeff's earlier comments. So
that and they've done this with every one of their communities
all
before.
Of the other
This
titles.
has been done with StarCraft, Heroes of the Storm, etc. And I mean, even in this article though, they say that Zovia said something about it, but they don't have a link to it. So I'm dubious about the trustworthiness of that, because
it doesn't really matter either way, because it's a believable statement that they would ask for some
it's such
community
a vague
feedback.
statement anyways too. So, but yeah, this is probably happening and not a surprise.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, last couple bits of news here in the world of esports. We do have a TESPA Overwatch Alliance coming up, and over $100,000 in scholarship prizes. So far, the details are pretty not weak necessarily, but they're still being fleshed out. But it sounds like it's going to be a 7-week team. Top 4 will compete in finals in January. And I think that's all that I snagged from it. Are there any other details I'm missing here, Kev, Jimmy, Rosh?
There are some. Yeah, the registration pages are over on TESPA's website right now. You can sign up your teams for any of Overwatch, Hearthstone, or Heroes of the Storm, all of which are going to have scholarship prizes available for 2 seasons. One that will run in September of 2016, or registration runs, in September right now. The tournament itself will run October to January, over 2 seasons. The top prizes, first place is $6,000 in scholarship money per person on the team. So $30,000 or $36,000 total for a team in Overwatch. And signups are open until the end of the month. So if you're interested in the possibility of doing that, we'll have those links in the show notes. I'm mostly just sad that none of this stuff existed when I was going to school, because I could have paid my way through a lot of school playing video games.
Yeah, I would have loved to play Brood War all through school.
I mean, I like today now.
Well, I did.
Yeah, well, yeah, we all did. Right?
I did.
Let's go back to school and be a team.
Oh my gosh.
Let's do it. Let's take out tens of thousands of dollars in student loans so we can
go win
get half of that back for exactly
scholarship money. Yeah.
Oh man, we're so smart.
It's cool to see these programs happening. I'm glad to see these initiatives occurring, and the more of this stuff that happens, the better the sort of like upcoming infrastructure will be for the actual tournament scene. If somebody can pay their way through some portion of college playing Overwatch, that feeds players into the Overwatch ecosystem when they're done school. Like, this is a brilliant thing on both sides.
Well, that, and doesn't League do this as well? Don't they have a collegiate league where they have teams that can compete for money as well? So I think it's branching out, and I think it was cool that Blizzard did that. So yeah, I agree with everything Jimmy and Kevin have said. I should finish school and just play video games through it as well. So it's cool. It's cool that there are more. You can't yell at your mom like, "Mom, I'm not doing anything playing this video game now," because you could potentially be getting $6,000 in fundraising or in scholarship money, if not more. So it's kind of just a cool little stab back at your parents now. So I agree with it. I like it.
Why are we stabbing parents?
They're always telling you to get off of a video game.
No, I totally
not anymore.
Not anymore.
Exactly.
Go play those video games so Mama can get some new marble countertops.
Yeah.
That's the new thing. That's what parents are saying these days. Kevin, what's this last tournament about?
This last one is actually cool. So just like in the time that we were getting set up to start, technically after our show started, ESPN is reporting that CJ in Korea is going to run a 28-team Overwatch league called Overwatch Apex. October 7th is the start date that this is billed for right now. It's going to run into December. The league is going to award 200 million Korean won, which works out to about 177,000 US dollars. So this will be another major Korean league. 12 Korean teams will be competing, determined by qualifiers, and then there will be 4 international teams that will get direct invites. So there will also be competitors going into this Korean league from the existing North American and European scenes.
Nice. I love big cash prizes. Not the other thing that you guys thought that was going to.
Mm-hmm.
So especially, of course, Rosh went there. Of course,
Rude.
Unbelievable.
Should I gonna say anything? I'm just gonna.
Go ahead, Rosh. You have the floor.
No, you have your moment, John. We'll let you have it.
I'm just excited to have Doa casting the Blizzard game again. I miss that guy.
Yep, it'll be good to have him back. I always like the stuff that he did with Hearthstone in the Wii days, where Doa and Artosis were doing everything for Hearthstone. Those were good times.
Once upon a time, yeah.
Good times. All right, so we did have a couple things from developers, but they're honestly not huge. To nobody's surprise, Slayer will not become a permanent game mode in Overwatch. I know Kev was really pushing for that and expected that to be a thing. No, he did not. So that's not happening. And they played around with the tug of war game type, and it's on their revisit list. So we might see some sort of tug of war game type in the future. So that's pretty cool. Let's go into the big thing that we're talking about this week. In strategy, it's going to be control strategy. Here we go.
Faster than sight. So predictable.
That's right. So this week we're going to spend a little bit of time on control strategy. So control, also known as capture point or king of the hill, is the game type where teams fight to capture and defend a single point on the map and gain percentage points towards their capture for time spent holding it until either team reaches 100%. Control is played in a best of 5 style in competitive and best of 3 in all of the other game types. There are 3 control maps in the game right now: Ilios, Lijiang Tower, and Nepal. Each of those maps is broken into 3 sections. Ilios is the lighthouse, ruins, and well. Lijiang Tower is the control center, garden, and night market. And Nepal has the sanctum, the shrine, and the village. So we're going to spend a little bit of time this week on this particular style of game in Overwatch, talking through some strategy, counter-picking ideas, and hero swapping for this specific game type. Before we get into it, anything specific about just the control game type that any of you guys want to throw out there?
It is officially called control now. So for you beta players, or was it capture point or king of the hill? It's control.
Yeah.
Get used to it.
I think I'll always still call it COT for short. I always will refer to it as that.
We got an email. It was like, what is cough? I had to respond. So
I feel like all 3 of these, there's at least one of the maps that I just absolutely hate playing on. So when it goes to the best of 5 and I play it twice, I get really mad.
Oh yeah. If you have ever watched my stream, you will have heard me just complain every time. There are times when I'll get a control map 3 times in a row, and it's because sometimes they'll just reverse sweep. We'll be 2-0, and then they'll just win the 3 games, and then that's the worst. And then you load into the next game, and you're like, all right, it's a new match, and then bam, it's another control map, and you're just, I've been so tempted. If I have ever wanted to leave a match, and if I ever do leave a match, it will be a control map, and it will be because of that reason.
Way.
I can't stand it.
All right. We got some salt. Got that out of our systems.
Yeah, got it out.
Now we're gonna do business here. All right,
yes.
Shake it off. So first thing we're gonna talk through is composition strategy, talking specifically about the heroes that you want to play in control. So my first question to you guys, and Rosh, I'm gonna throw it to you first. Are there heroes or map-specific heroes for control or the individual control maps that you would recommend?
I wouldn't say for a specific map, but the 2 for support, I'll start with support first. Support, the 2 heroes that really seem to be the A+ team combo for the control maps are Lucio Zenyatta. And I say that with a grain of salt because I'm a Mercy main. So Lucio Zenyatta seems to be the best fit just with the speed boost, and when the attacking team trying to get control of the control point comes in, it's just really amazing to have a Zenyatta ult, especially Because in this day and age, going into the tank perspective, Azaria is almost always going to be on the team. Your team, their team. Zenyatta ult is just the way to combat that. So it's almost vital to have a Zenyatta for control points. As for tanks, though, it gets a little less. You need that combo, but I personally prefer a Monkey Zarya combo. If you watch any tournaments or anything like that, if you see any professional games or any competitive teams that are playing together on stream, you'll notice that when you are going into attack a control point, the point itself doesn't unlock for its 30 seconds, or is it a weird number like 28 something around? It's like 30 seconds. You can't control the point, so there's no point in being on it. Instead, you'll want to fight outside of it. The monkey will...
Scientist.
The scientist his purpose is really to get in the back lines of everybody running out of the gate. If you notice, or if you play a support, you tend to stay towards the back. So for a Winston to jump towards the back, almost 99% of the time, the DPS have already raced all the way into the map, and your support are all lonely because they weren't expecting it. So such a key member, at least at first, until they try and switch to counter the Winston, is a Winston pick. It's really good for disrupting it. It allows you to capture the point right away if you can get the support down, and then you get into the next segment of keeping the point and all of that. So those are probably the vital picks. Everything else is kind of, you can match it up, but those seem to be the main parts of the team that you want to start out with.
For sure, yeah. And I mean, Winston was the only one I was going to raise, and then you brought it up because it matters so much, at least at the level of play that I'm at. Jimmy, John, anything you guys want to add?
I mean, the way that I have always kind of approached control is push, pull, and hold. I feel like most of the good heroes in Overwatch either provide a push, a la Lucio, or a Winston ult, a Roadhog ult, a hold, like a Reinhardt shield, a Winston shield, a Zenyatta ult, and then you've got a pull, which would be like a Roadhog hook. You might see a Zarya ult. And a lot of the times when I'm evaluating comps and what's good, I'm usually thinking, and do we need to push? Do we need to pull? Do we need more hold when it comes to that strategy?
I like it. Jimmy, last thoughts?
Just, I think you, like Rosh was saying, you kind of want to start out a little bit more aggressively with your picks, just because you're having to advance upon a position here, and once you get that and want to hold it, you're gonna have to switch to a bit more passive like that. You don't usually start out with a Reinhardt necessarily on control maps, but as you start respawning and they start pushing, I think Reinhardt becomes a bit more advantageous for your team as you're holding on to that point.
Right on. Okay, so we're going to move on. We're going to talk a little bit then just about roles for control. Individual hero picks notwithstanding, I'm curious what you guys think are the correct sort of balances for control. So there's definitely times, for example, in competitive, we were talking last week a little bit about how 3-tank has become kind of the norm on a lot of maps. But in control specifically, is control a game type where you want multiple healers? Is control a game type where you want more long range or medium range characters? What do you take into your control comps in terms of strategy by role, John?
Rephrase the question.
Your team is 6. You're going to take in which roles? 2 tanks, right. 2 healers, 2 DPS? How do you balance it?
Yeah, I usually like, and like I said, the way I think about it is usually 1 to 2 strong hold characters, 1 or 2 push-pull characters, and then usually 1 or 2 junglers. Somebody like a Reaper or a Tracer or a Genji that can just go wreak havoc away from the point that makes fighting for the point harder to do. So easy picks for me are always like I love Roadhog on most control maps because of the way that he can pull people off of the point or pull, a Lucio onto the point or something like for a quick kill, stuff like that. So I love Roadhog for tanking. I love Zenyatta because he can kind of sit off the point and just kind of snipe really hard. And if you're going to go after Zenyatta, you usually have to chase after him off the point, which makes the team on the point have to find a way to deal with that. So it's a really it's a really challenging balance of how you're going to deal with the Zenyatta. I love a Reaper and a Tracer Genji on almost everyone because, again, they're so good at just pushing out the damage. And then usually there's 1 to 2 spots left that you kind of fill with more utility roles, like a Zarya, where she's just so good at those shields. Like, that's so dangerous. If you miss shoot and get her up into the, the 70s and 80s on her beam, like, good night on a control map. You have to basically put all focus onto that. And obviously, Mercy does really well on control points too, with those massive reses to bring your team back into the game. And the way that she can sit around corners and around walls and still heal, it's amazing. Rosh will show you how the Mercy does that sometimes. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
All right, real quick, Jimmy, roles for control.
Yeah, I just really like double support because you're wanting to sustain a lot during these fights and obviously control the point and continue controlling it. And like one of the other things you're talking about, specific characters on some of these maps, it seems like each one of these sets has one map where Lucio and Pharah get like huge value on it because there's a hole in the center or there's this giant drop off that you can boot people off. And as hard as those are to kind of pull off, sometimes those are just what you need to pull off the victory. But yeah, double support I think is super important on your composition on these control maps. But that's just what I like to run normally, so that's what I'm comfortable with. So I'm curious what Rosh thinks really though.
No, I mean, I definitely agree. I can't see a single King of the Hill, competitive-wise or tournament-wise, where you're only going to want to run one support. I think that's pretty much a solid, like that's a staple in the team is a double support. Now, how you want to run your double support, that's different. Like I said earlier, I still think Lucio Zenyatta is the A++ try-hard team that you're going to see in every tournament, but like on my stream, I'll totally play a Mercy just because I'm a better Mercy than a Lucio and I'm a better Mercy than a Zenyatta. So I think the double support is definitely a staple. As far as if you want 2 DPS and 2 tanks or 3 tanks and 1 DPS, I think it depends how well your solo DPS does. I'm liking 2 DPS, 3 tanks as it is right now in the meta it is. But sometimes with King of the Hill, everything... It's like medium to short distance. So a Reaper is going to do a lot of damage. You never get something like on Icon where you're trying to get to the door and there's this long bridge and a soldier can do work, or a Widow or a Hanzo, because in King of the Hills, you don't have that much space. There's the control point, there's normally like a courtyard setup deal, and there's normally 3 buildings that you can go in front of the point, to the left of the point, to the right of the point. So a Reaper can do a lot of damage. So it really comes down to your DPS pick. As for that pick, I typically like a McCree, but I also really like a good Genji or a good Tracer because while the 3 tanks are in the middle soaking up all the damage and your 2 healers are supporting those tanks, your Genji and your Tracer can go around and just pick off the supports that are hanging out in the back. Pick off the supports that aren't sitting in the middle because that's where all the damage is. You don't want to get into that. So I think that I'm probably lean more towards the 3 DPS and 3 tanks, 1 DPS, 2 support. Sorry.
That's fair. I think that's probably more common at the competitive level. I think for general purposes, you're going to see a lot more 2 support, 2 DPS, and single or double tank, depending. It's going to vary a lot with individual maps, but let's move on. We're going to talk about capture strategy now. So in terms of actually getting control of the point, either initially or if you lose that first salvo, in terms of actually getting on and staying on the point to take control of it, what do you guys recommend for strategic choices? Rosh, we'll start with you.
I noticed, I mentioned this a little bit when we were talking about the first part of choosing your heroes, but a lot of people for some reason will run as the point, and the 30 seconds that you can't capture the point, you being on the point isn't going to do anything. It's not going to capture the point. You're just going to funnel into a small room that basically you can get picked off, or your support can't get there fast enough because they're towards the back of it. So they just get picked off trying to funnel into the small little capture point that you're already on. It's generally not a good idea to run to the point when you can't capture it. Again, there's just no point. The battle or the grounds that Blizzard provides for the capture points generally have a courtyard in front of them, like I said, which generally has some force, some type of LOS, like in Ilios, the lighthouse. You have the statue that's in the middle of the courtyard that you can use as LOS, and then you have the room with the square room with the health pack in the middle. That's the area that you really want to focus on setting up at before the control point becomes viable, before it can be taken. Set up, and immediately, instead of running into the point, set up for the oncoming enemy. Try and get there quicker. Try and get the better advantage point. Try and get the better positioning and pick them off as they run in, because chances are they're not going to have that same mindset and they're going to try and run into the point. So just pick them off as they run in. That's the biggest piece of advice that I have for getting the point right away. That's the most common thing that I see, is just that happening. There's no point. You're not going to get the point for 30 seconds. Just don't stand on it. If you pick off people, you're going to have more. You're going to get the point without having to fight anyway. So just focus on the battle first.
Yeah, and I think I was going to make that exact comment because I know I was going to throw it to Jimmy here and just make the analogy to Heroes. But as a general rule, you don't want to try to take objectives when both teams have all their players up. You always want to wait until you've got that man advantage before you start and try to put pressure on and actually exert control. So Jimmy, anything you want to add to what Rosh had to say?
Not really. I mean, I was going to say the same exact thing. I mean, it's just a common thing, I think, in Overwatch, just in general, especially in competitive, when you're not playing with a full stack, is you'll see all these people just like stream in, and you're like, that is not doing anything to help us take the point back. So yeah, just spam that follow me button, and hopefully they'll stick together.
John, closing thoughts on this one?
I mean, I think the biggest thing that, and probably most relevant to control game types, is you start playing a mini game of ult management when it comes down to capturing these points. If you watch any competitive control game, nobody moves until an ult is cast. Mm-hmm. They all wait for the Zarya ult or Ana on a Reinhardt or something like that, as Zenyatta, to move in so you can encroach on that. Those types of things. If you and if they're not, basically the goal of the team who is not controlling the point is they try to usually take high ground or advantageous positions, and they're just trying to chip away at the opposing team so that they can build up their own ults. If they get lucky and to the point earlier, get a kill and all of a sudden you're at a 5-on-6, they might move in early. But for the most part, all it's about is trying to build those ultimates and tracking what ultimates you think your team has. And this is where shot callers are so important in competitive play, of calling out who they think is going to have an ult, how they're going to approach that going forward.
Right on. Okay, so you actually get control of the point. You're on the point. You now need to keep your opponents off of it. Tips and tricks for maintaining control on defense. Jimmy.
Sticking together, calling out where the opponents are kind of funneling in will help. And if you got to keep eyes out for getting flanked, because the points are open enough that you cannot really safely cover every single entry point into the objective. So just communicating is such a big thing, especially on these maps where a lot of these parts, you have 360 degrees of ways that they can zone in on you.
Fair enough. Raj.
The biggest thing is kind of exactly what John said about ult management, and knowing he basically hit the nail on the head with what he was saying. So +1, I'll give you a +1 again, John. Basically just ulting. It almost comes down to which Zarya has their ult and which Zarya does not hold or have their ult. If you watch any kind of competitive game on YouTube, for reference, no one tries to take the point until their team has ult. So they'll sit outside and they'll just throw pot shots in until they can get their ults up. They'll try and manage a Reaper or McCree behind to start with the flank. And then they'll open up with a Zarya ult or a Zenyatta ult or a Lucio boost to push them in. And so I'm not going to repeat everything that John said, so I'll just let him take this whole answer. He basically, everything that I was going to say, he mentioned. It's definitely very, very crucial to just not run in and feed the opponent team their ults so that when you get your ult, you push in and then they have it as well. Just wait, be patient. You have plenty of time to get it back. It takes one team wipe and then you've got the capture point back and you have the advantage.
Right on. I guess, John, your ult answer get carried forward. Is there anything else you want to add?
So the only thing that I think I would add is, as a team, decide on your strategy. And this comes back to my cheesy little thing about push and pull. Is our goal going to be to push the encroaching team off of our point? Are we trying to pull that in? That strategy works really well in non-competitive play. In competitive play, if you're playing at a high level, it's almost strictly ult management. But if you're not, what I'm thinking is, okay, they're running 3 tanks. I don't want to pull them onto the point. I want to push them out and rely on my Zenyatas and Reapers, Tracers, Genjis, whatever, to be taking those characters out. If they're really light on health, I want characters like a Roadhog. I want characters that draw the opposing team in for relatively easy kills. Roadhog is one of my favorite for like a pull. Zarya kind of does a pull thing just naturally. Her shields kind of feel magnetic because you're kind of chasing and then you're playing this cat and mouse game the whole time with those shields.
Love it. All right. Last thing, and then we've got to wrap this up. Hero swapping. So we've talked lots about hero swapping in general as a strategy and how a lot of people are super leery about hero swapping. They want to wait until they die, or they don't want to swap when they die because they've got some amount of ult charge built up and they're overvaluing that ult charge. So in Control specifically, when do you swap heroes? What do you swap to? Like, what's your hero swapping strategy in Control? Rosh, we'll go back to you.
It's kind of hard for me because I play a support, and for Control, there's only really 3 supports that you want to play. So typically people run 2 supports. So if I'm swapping off, I only have 1 character that I can really swap to. But if I have to switch, it's because I'm playing a Mercy and I have to switch to a Lucio, or it's a specific map that Mercy will do better and I'll have been playing Lucio. So kind of look around you. If the map is a little more open, like the control point on Lijiang, where it's in the build, actually no, it's not Lijiang, it's Nepal. And it's the map where you're in the sanctuary, where it's the box, and then you have the railing around where you can stand on. That map specifically, I would switch to maybe a Mercy instead of a Lucio because it's more open. You have more places to fly to. Your mobility skyrockets with that map. If you're playing a Mercy, switch to a Lucio if you're in a more confined room. Just kind of look at the map that you're playing. Look at the counter, or how the counter comp, if they're running 3 tanks and your team isn't, switch to a Reaper, switch to a Zenyatta if you don't have it, switch to a Soldier that can just burst through those tanky stats. So probably my biggest piece of advice is just look at your team, look at your surroundings, look at, are we getting caught up in the middle on the control point and we're losing 10 fights? Maybe a Zenyatta will help because of the ult. Are we getting grouped up? Maybe a Reaper will help because of the ult and they're all in a room. So just be really, really just cognizant of the team you're playing against, where you're making a mistake on the map in, where you're making the mistake in, how you're getting caught up, and then just try and counter that.
Cool. John, your thoughts on swaps for Control in particular?
Don't bang your head against the wall. If something's not working, change it. Like that's especially at like lower levels. Usually teams aren't skilled enough to deal with especially 2 or 3 hero changes simultaneously. So that's already a huge thing in your advantage. To Rosh's point, pay attention to the map. Great example, Sanctuary on Nepal. The pit in Ilios, and even the other one, the Market, I think it's what it's called on Ilios. Maybe the one where you're. Anyways, there's another ones where those are really good to bring push characters on because you can knock them off the edge so easily. It's the most frustrating thing when you get Farad or Lucio'd right off of the edge. Like, that's one of the worst feelings in the world. Makes you feel like a god. Works at lower to medium skill levels. It's not going to work at the highest skill level, but accounting for all the different skill levels of our viewer base, I think that's a really, really solid strategy when it comes to that. And then, yeah, just don't trickle in. If you're trickling in, almost always you're never going to win. Especially once you get to the place, once you hit probably around high gold platinum, usually people are good enough at the game and coordinated enough where you can't just kind of MVP it on your own and hope to carry your team to victory. You very much have to rely on those team-based ult charges and things to make the situation change.
Right on. Jimmy, closing thoughts on hero swaps and control.
Yeah, I just think warriors tanks are going to be the most volatile for hero swapping. Like Rosh was saying, going in with Winston very early on is pretty effective, but he doesn't do a whole lot for you as you kind of take over the control point. So you're going to want to switch that up to like a Zarya or a Reinhardt going forward. And yeah, I think that's going to be really important on control maps, and also your damage. You always want to be able to be flexible there and counter what they're going with. Like if there's a Pharah that's really giving you trouble, you gotta counter against that.
For sure, yeah. That's the one thing I kind of wanted to weigh in on this was there's always going to be little things about your initial salvo that go sideways. So maybe you get in there and you realize that people have listened to John's advice and they've showed up with a Roadhog that's causing you a lot of trouble. Get your counter picks to Roadhog out early. Don't feel like, we ran in, we fought for, 90 seconds. I'm halfway to my ult on Pharah. I'm going to stick with it. If what your team needs is for you to make the switch to a Reaper or a Soldier, it's way more important to have the correct counter picks than to have an ult that isn't necessarily going to swing the game. We talked a lot earlier about holding until you've got ults to go in with, but ults only matter if you've got a composition that's going to allow you to execute on a strategy. They're way more important in a coordinated setting. For most people, you're not playing in a 6-stack. You don't have a shot caller. This is not going to be the game you're playing, right? And in that case, swapping to the correct character early and often is probably going to be way more valuable to you than waiting to try and win the game on, to John's point, carrying with a single ult and trying to be a hero. Don't be a hero. Go and make the correct choice for what's going to actually work with your team and counter comp your opponents. That's it. Yeah. That's control.
Exactly.
Yep. That is. Is that the thing?
That's the thing.
That's the thing.
Is that the thing? Are we done? Are we better control players already?
I hope so.
I hope so too.
I need it more than you do.
Fair enough. Well, in that case,
time is money, friends, and we're almost flat broke.
Guess we gotta get out of here, huh? This is fun.
It's time.
This is fun. We definitely loosened the collars a little bit.
Just a touch.
Jimmy took his pants off, apparently. So everything is just going to... Oh, I don't even want to go there. Anyways, thank you so much for hanging out with us for episode number 40. Can you guys believe it? 40 episodes?
40 episodes. Unreal.
Episode 6 for Raj, but 40.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's been a long 40 episodes for us, guys.
Yeah. You mean you didn't turn in for the ones before you joined us? Rosh, cut me deep, man.
She was a big fan before we asked her to be on.
I was.
Saw 2 episodes ever.
The ones that we sent her if she wanted to guest on the show.
Please review these, yeah.
Skip 1 through 18.
Yeah, this is what you're in for. Just watch these.
Yep, this is what happens. Anyways, thank you guys again so much for hanging out. We had a lot of fun on this show. It really helped me. I was stressed out. Everything was everywhere. Just to hang out. Hopefully people kind of like the loosey-goosey laid back Kevin where he's making fun of people and just, having fun, keeping it loose. I love it.
All the time.
So we do want to thank our MVPs, Adam B. and Tyler H. Thank you guys so much for your support of the show. Kevin, tell us about our Patreon while I grab our actual patron stuff because I'm an awful human being.
Well, you are, but for those of you who don't want to be awful human beings, we have a great system. Oh, the head shake I'm getting right now. Anyway, no. This show and everything we do with it is entirely supported by our fans and our friends. In order to pull this all off, we do have available for you a Patreon campaign at patreon.com/Payload Podcast. That allows us to do more with the show. We've gone so far and made the choice to get a new logo. We're working on some new voiceover work, and we're saving up towards putting together some YouTube videos and additional content for you guys. So if the show is interesting to you, if the things we're working on excite you, you can head on over to patreon.com/Payload Podcast to find out more about what that looks like and support the show. John, do we have any new patrons this week?
Yes, we do. Welcome to the family, Griffin M. I think that is the only one. I'm on mobile here. So yeah, Griffin M. Welcome to...
Yeah, also, if you are a patron supporter, make sure to link your Discord account as Discord stuff is starting to roll out, and we'll try to play some games with you guys.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Because I'm awesome, we're also going to talk about iTunes reviews, but I'm going to do it this week. So iTunes reviews are huge. They are easily one of the most important things when it comes to a podcast being discovered. So if you like the show and you have 5 minutes, hop on over to iTunes or Stitcher and leave us a 5-star review. It would mean the world to us. If you already have an iTunes account, make another one. Leave another review. Why not? Let's cheat. Let's cheat together. There's no, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do it.
Statements made by John Horseman and Co.
Just kidding. We don't cheat, but we do appreciate your 5-star reviews. Kevin was so upset that I told people to cheat. It's so funny. He's like writing down notes. This is what's we're going to talk about. It's true.
John's
I don't have
from his manager after this show.
I don't. Yeah, it's true. Mom. Kevin's gonna call my mom. Yeah. Anyways, this week we want. Excuse me. We almost hung up the call. I almost took Kev right off the call. This week we do want to thank fellow hero and Soup 3RD, probably Super D. Thank you so much for your 5-star reviews. You can find us on iTunes at itunes.com/internet/payload podcast.
Sounds right.
Yeah. Whew. We're gonna get some emails this week, boys and girls.
One or two.
We're gonna get a couple. Kevin's gonna be taking the emails this week, so send all the emails you want.
Aim them all at John.
I won't be able to respond to him this week, so send them to Kevin Hovdestad at AOL.com. Still rocking that AOL. He's paying $14.95 a month for that too.
Wow.
His internet comes every month on a CD DVD. Plugs it in, pays $15. Yep.
The only way to get it up in the frozen north.
Yeah, it's true. Good old Canada. Woo! All right, let's get out of here. Let's do some shout outs for the week. Rosh, you first.
Yeah, My shout outs, F2K, they're the organization that I stream for. They've put up with me so far. So here is a huge shout out to you guys. You can check them out at fade2karma.com. That's fade with the number 2 karma.com. Also, NutsBet, they are a new sponsorship. They've been sponsoring us for a couple weeks, so I owe them a huge bet for us. What that is, basically, you can bet on live Hearthstone players at tournaments, and you can make some good money. So it's cool. It's kind of interactive with Hearthstone in a new way. That website's nutsbet.com. And then last but not least, the viewers, everybody watching this podcast, everybody who's tuned into my stream, I honestly couldn't do this without you. I owe you so much of my happiness on a day-to-day basis. So thank you so incredibly
You're welcome. I got you. No. Oh boy. Jimmy, what's up?
Yeah, just thanks everyone for coming out and checking out the Payload podcast. And if you're going to TwitchCon, make sure to check myself and John out, as we do have a panel
Check me out.
Podcasting on Twitch, September 30th at 12:30 p.m. Pacific. It'll also be streamed for those of you able to watch at home. It's going to be on the Sandstorm Theater channel, which I'm sure there's a link for that, twitchcon.com. Check it out.
Yep. And Kev, what about you?
Well,
cool, that's great. All right, as for me,
I knew it.
Just kidding. Go ahead.
I did have a new piece come out on GamesBeat, actually, just while we were recording tonight. So I had a chance to interview 2 of the players who are going to be playing in the Hearthstone Americas Summer Championship this weekend. If that's your bag, you can check out the article. It's linked over on my Twitter at Lack of Realism. There's a whole bunch more of that stuff coming out really soon. Stuff I've been working on for Vice, IGN, all sorts of good stuff. As well, I'm sure I mentioned this last week, but if you are a Payload listener and planning to come to BlizzCon, shoot us an email, send us a tweet, find us on Facebook, let us know what you're up to, where you want to be. If you want to hang out and meet the hosts, we would love to hear from you guys. We'd love to get something together to meet the people who listen to and support the show. So do get in touch. Let us know where you're going to be, when you're going to be there. And let's see if we can't do something and maybe get a sweet photo of some Payload fans and hang out together. That would be awesome.
Kevin will buy you a drink.
Kevin will buy you a drink.
3 drinks. As many drinks as you want, because you're special and you deserve it. As for me, lots of busy stuff going on this week, so I won't be getting to game a whole lot. I do have a few articles coming out, mainly pants and underwear from the dryer, but that's about it. Those are the only articles of clothing I have coming out.
Thanks,
Kevin.
Dad.
Got him. All right, let's get out of here. You can find more Overwatch stuff throughout the week at overwatch.blizzpro.com. And a big thank you to Jake Buttineau at jakebuttineau.ca for our music and all that stuff. It's amazing. You can find us on Twitter at Payload Podcast, on Facebook at facebook.com/Payload Podcast, on Patreon at patreon.com/Payload Podcast. And because everything has been so consistent with Payload Podcast, we want you to email us at thepayload@blizzpro.com. So don't mess that up. I wonder how many people have sent emails to payloadpodcast@blizzpro.com. Don't do that! Never said it. Not once. We do appreciate your iTunes reviews. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and the new Google Podcast. This has been episode number 40. We'll see you next week. Bye.
The Payload is a production of BlizzPro. Find out more about Overwatch at overwatch.blizzpro.com. You can find your host throughout the week on social media. Find Jimmy on Twitter at DJ Tyrant, Kevin on Twitter at Lack of Realism, and John on Twitter at Kicked Tripod.